Hey guys, welcome back to the very first episode of NL Fantasy Fanatics for 2026. I hope you guys are all well and yeah, this year absolutely keen to get into it and here will be just me for today, but we'll be doing the hookers and the players to look for in the hooking position. Uh, there's not much to be said about the hooking position as you can only choose one here, but there's a couple of interesting options here and so let's go through them. The first one to me is Harry Grant. We all know what Harry is capable of doing. And at 645k, he looks like a very good bargain hooker there at average of 50. So he definitely is at least 50k underpriced with for his average of 50.7 there. And for me, I think if you're going to go for a gun hooker to start with, he's the best one to go for. Their fixtures doesn't have a buy until round 15 there. You lock him in. I think he's just a set and forget hooker that you can go with. He should have a good year this year. He had a little bit of a down year last year, but I think he'll be playing close to 80 with a couple of their outs that they've had. I think he'll be really good and having to do more there. So for me, he is the probably best gun hook you can go with. Whereas second, Blake Brayley had probably a career year for him in fantasy. And yeah, got a good draw to start the season with the Gold Coast Titans there. And as you can see with Blake, it's sort of a toss up between which one you go to, but he has quite a good draw start, but an early round seven bye there, which isn't terrible when it comes to fantasy. But I do think for Blake, he doesn't have enough attacking upside, whereas Harry does. So Blake, you're sort of getting the consistency, whereas with Harry, again, those big scores of a guy that can score tries and go for the 60, 70, 80s, whereas Blake sort of is getting 50 tackles a game, and that's sort of how he's scoring his points there. So for me, I think for 40k cheaper, I would definitely be starting with Harry Grant there. You go down, you see Damien Cook. Uh, he's probably one I wouldn't look to go toward just because Jacob Little be in there and but he definitely could start the season off blazing. They have a couple of players missing, like Jack DeBellin leaving in the forward pack there, so there could be lock minutes come available for Damien Cook. But I do believe he is one of the better, one of the worst gun hookers that you can go for that price there. But one that I think is quite entertaining is Connor Watson there. I think he's going to have a season. I think last year was a down year for him with that hooker mid. He screams absolute bargain of a option there at 622k. I'm surprised he's only 4% owned. We know what he's going to do. He can play lock two. The round five buy is a little bit early there, so you're going to have to carry a second hooker early into the season. But I do think that Connor has definitely got advantages and disadvantages to his position there. But I think with that dual position, you can play him at middle, you can play him at hooker, and I do believe that he will go out there and score extremely well. So for me, out of those top, I say like five, four, or five hookers there, I would lean towards starting with either Harry Grant or Connor Watson there. Um, let's The Tigers have a bye the first round, which sees Appy Coruscant not really interested there. Not interested in Ian. Robson could be interested at the Roosters, which probably sees Connor go to 13. And considering he can play hooker, Connor has scored better at 13, considering he's running the ball more, which makes, to my opinion, Connor even a better option and one to be spoken about. But Robson, with Connor being there, Robson maybe only a 60-minute player, whereas Connor's going to be playing probably 20 minutes, stinting him at hooker there. So I think Robson's one just to keep an eye out and avoid for the early part of the season there. Kurt Donahue one. That's going to be very interesting with Jeremy Marshall King out for, I believe, 2 months. Could be more, but I think that he could start the season really well. That hooker and mid duel there is really nice. Average of 44, so again, underpriced coming into this season. And I mean, they got around six by there, so that's. I mean, you say if you don't have buying around five, they're probably pretty good. You have to really buy a plan for them, but he good draw for a hooker to be playing, and if he's playing big minutes at hooker and gets that starting role where you can plug him in your middles too, I do think Kurt is a little bit of a underpriced player to look at, and a little bit of a pod with that too, only owned by 7.5% there, so a little bit of a point of difference player, and Kurt Donahue becomes there. Peter Mamazoulis, Mitch Kenny. Sorry, I got a new laptop, so I'm struggling a bit to like learn how to like really go down with the players there. This is not good. Hookers. Does it work? No, not want to select there. How do they slide usually? No, that doesn't work. Sorry, guys. I'll get the hang of it eventually. Well, we can just search him up for now. Reid Marnie, 489K. He's another very interesting option. He had a very down year at the Bulldogs this year. Now he's moved to he has definitely moved to a club where there's no hooker that they can look at there, and this I think will scream really really good for Reid Marnie, probably playing 80 minutes there or close to 80 minutes, and with a relatively good draw. He sees 30% owning there, and a relatively good draw to start the season with the Knights, Tigers, and Titans, and no early buy there makes Reid look like a very interesting option to start the season with, close to a must-have in my eyes as you're buying Reid for 490K, where you know that if he can get his missed tackles into shape there, he's going to be scoring 50s to 60s, and Reid can definitely from 50 to 60 score a very, very good ticker points there. So for me, as these mid-range options there, Reid is definitely one that I'm interested in, along with, geez, I'm really struggling on this laptop, along with the player that not many people have spoken about, but Chris Randall. The news of Jermaine Jolliffe going down for the whole season looks like Chris will be playing through the middle now. And Chris averaged 38 there, but the thing that screams for me, which you can't see on NL Fantasy, but he has actually I'll bring this up. NRL Fantasy stats. The thing that for me, if Chris is to get that lock position there when playing over 50 minutes, he has a career average of 49.7, priced at 36 there. So he at least has 12, or he at least has off that career average 14 points of value there. And as it can be seen, that a lot of these players this year have hooker and mid dual, which is good. You know, you can rotate them from one position to another one. And he looks like one of the better mid-range options that if you want to probably anti-pod Reid Marnie with and bring in Chris Randall instead, we all know what he's going to do. Even if he's starting a prop and playing over 50 minutes, has a career average of 68.5 there. Like Chris is an absolute stud. We all know what he can do. So for me, Chris Randall's definitely one on my radar that I think should be on most people's teams. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets good minutes down the middle. He goes up to 600, 650K, and you get sort of left behind for not having him there. Bailey Hayward's another one that's very interesting. Oh, that's why. Buy price. Hey. Bailey Hayward, 375K here. He looks extremely interesting this year. With the departure of Reid Marnie now, it looks like he's going to be taking over that hooking role there. A good fixture there, only the round two bye, which means you have to carry a second hooker, which if you're going with a gun in um Harry Grant, like you can sort of bring in Bailey to get him to make money there. As it's shown on footy stats, hey, Wood break even of 16, and when starting off 5'8", when starting on hooker, he has a career average of 34 there. So even with that, and where he's priced that, he still has 6 points of value there. But I would expect to see that go up. He's a better player now than what he was. The Bulldogs have improved there too, and he looks like you see, he scores a 40, 40, 42 there. The last two, they've believe. I can't say the scores, but I believe they got absolutely walloped there. So I think for me, I would almost start with one of those with like a Grant in there, and then start with one of the guys that you can use in your middle, like a Smith, a Watson, a Kurt Donahue, or a Bailey Hayward, and or Chris Randall, and just chuck them there. And I hope they make money, which you say Bailey Hayward would playing probably 60 to 70 minutes at hooking position for the Bulldogs. For me, he is gets very close to a no-brainer there. Another dual position player in Brandon Smith, priced at 300K, is Smith this year, which we all know what Smith can do. We all fell into the trap a couple of years ago for Brandon Smith. He's owned by 37% of teams, and as of right now, he's not sitting in my current team. Around four by there, but what is a pretty solid draw to start the season for Brandon. Uh, for me, it can scream trap. It can also become really well. We've all fallen for the Brandon Smith trap. If he plays over 50 minutes, which I don't know if it's likely, considering they still got Peter Mamouzelos there, who I believe is available. Yeah, is available for round one there. So yeah, I think that Brandon for me has to be playing down the middle. He's not going to lose many points like that. Break even. These haven't been updated. Break evens, but 20, price to 22. So you assume if he like you look at that career average of at hooker playing over 50 minutes there, he has a career average of about let's have a look of about 47.6s with a couple storm games, but we go last season while playing there, didn't play there. 2024 while playing there, still average of 38.1, which still sees Smith make money there. Makes bulk money of 16K there. So if I had to rank Hayward and Smith, I would go with Hayward just because of like the position. Like we definitely know where Hayward's going to be playing and how he's going to be playing those big minutes, whereas Smith could be used as that utility where plays maybe 20 minutes at hooker to stint Peter Mamazoulis, then comes on at lock and then comes on at prop. And for me now, have got such a good forward pack with Keon taking big minutes down the middle and Cam Murray back now. There's less minutes going around for Smith down the middle. So if he wins that starting role over Peter Mamazoulis, then I would be interested in that. But still, I think it could be I think personally, Brandon Smith, owned by 37% of teams, could have trap written all over him. But again, I could be proven wrong. We all know what Brandon Smith can do. We have all fallen for the Brandon Smith trap multiple times when he's priced at 500K going the Roosters there. He is going to a new club. I don't think he played at the Bunnies last year, did he? No, he was at the Bunnies last year, but he wasn't very good last year. I think Wayne Bennett will be better for them. The Bunnies are going to be better with Dave Fafita there, Cam Murray back. So there is some positives in Brandon Smith, but I also think there is a lot of negatives there. I don't think there is many hookers left on this list. So if I had to rank them out in when you go, so you're talking about gun status there, I would start with my rankings would have I would start with a Grant as my top, closely followed by I'd go Watson over Blake Bradley, but there's a lot of risk with Watson considering we don't know his role now that they've signed Reece Robson there. That is seriously just me assuming he gets that 13 role, which he should, and play big minutes there and then probably stint Reece Robson. But we have seen that Reece can play 80 minutes there, so it could be very bad getting Connor Watson, but it could also be a little bit of a pod there at 4.1% ownership. And then I would also look at a Kurt Donoghu again with that dual position of hooker middle, Jeremy Marshall King out for a while. Ned doesn't really have much sample status while playing at hooker there, Kurt Donoghu. Priced at 42, hooking position, has an average of 42.5 in 4 games when playing there, a 60 and a 59. But then you see, like, he can go low. I know one of them was in 37 minutes. I would say anywhere around the 60 to 70 minute mark for Kurt Donoghu, and I think he could be a very good option. But problem with him is 560K, you're already hoping he can get 40s for you. And do you think he can come out and average 45 to 50? If you do think he can, then Kurt's going to make money. But if you don't think he can, then it's sort of a wasted uh bringing of Kurt when you have a lot of people down here that can make money. And then I'd look at Chris Randall. If I had to choose, I would go Grant, Randall, then Watson. I think Randall, we've already spoken about his stats, but I think he one that could be really interesting there. Could make a lot of money, and we have seen what Chris can do. He's a very good player. Was in my team last year, and that I think another thing here is Reed Marnie in minutes over 50 when playing hooker, 40 a 50 average there. But last year you saw it fall off. Seasons 2025. You saw it fall off with a 45.3 average, which is still where he is priced Reed money. He's still going to make money from that with what looks like 10 points of value there. Whereas 2024, 49.7. So for me, Reed Marnie is one no-brainer there. He's highly owned for that reason of his sample size that he has at hooker. 36 average, I would say worse. Sorry, 36 price that. I'd say worst comes to worst, he's going to come out and probably average 40, and he's still making 4 points of value there, but he could definitely come out and average 45 to 50 and blow everyone's minds away. Bailey Hayward versus Reed Marnie is a question to be asked there. I would lean towards Reed just because he's got that sample size of what he can do. But if you can, because Bailey's got that middle, you could go Grant, Reed, Bailey, and then that because he got the round two by there, Bailey, and I think that could be a very interesting strategy to start the season with as Bailey and Reedy or two money makers and in grants that gun that you can go there. So I do think both of them have a lot of upside to look into, but I would lean if you had to choose one, Reed over Bailey, just because Bailey's got a round two bye and Reed has more sample size over Bailey Smith on that thing. And for me, I'd stay right away from Brandon Smith. But thank you for the next one. Thank you. We'll see you in the next one for the middle analysis. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.